Okay. I am Yuma Mudra. I suppose this is the 5th IDS Mudra, dedicated to the ground, the path, and the fruit, about inspiring oneself to practice to reach the vision of that adventure. How is it that I'm going to prepare myself? And then, of course, entering the path, which is to truly do the journey full-heartedly, thoroughly, totally involved. Because somehow, if you're not involved in whatever it is you do, it's not really useful to do it anyway, for everything, because there is, it's like a natural law. It's not really about Buddhism itself, it's more about life. If you are fully, completely dedicated to something from your heart, with like all of your energy and all of your hopes and fears surrendering to that intention you have, and you just follow whatever is needed to do, because sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. So it will give fruit somehow. Of course, it can give the fruit. It can give the fruit that you were expecting, but it can also give another fruit. Like here, what I'm translating this one from Spanish. It is called Enseñanzas a la Dakini. I don't have it in English. It is instructions, oral instructions from Padmasambhava to Lady Chogyam, Yeshe Chogyam. Very beautiful text. So in this case, I have it in Spanish. It is actually, it comes from the English, which I do have. I didn't know it's the same book. In English, it is translated by Erik, Pema, Kunsang, which I do have. So I'll check later if it's the same exactly, because the title is really not the same. The title is different. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you is that first, whatever we're doing, may that be about Buddhist or not Buddhist or whatever, doesn't matter. If we don't really dedicate ourselves to what we're doing full-heartedly and completely thoroughly, it's no use doing it at all in the first place. So this is very deep, because sometimes, like I find myself like I have to do something online. I don't really like it that much, to tell you the truth. And it's very complicated, because now they're making security everywhere. So it's becoming so secure that you're just in some kind of a box that you cannot find the way out of that box. And you need a code and another code, and then the other code. Of course, people who are very prepared and they have this modern link to everything, it works very easily. But in my case, it's not easy, and I've found myself getting irritated about dedicating so much time to that. For my mother, for example, I have to do something for her. She's 80 years old. She doesn't want to do it anyway, but she really has to do it, and we have to do it online. Because otherwise she would have to travel, and she cannot. So I find myself irritated, and then I start to dig, what is it happening to me here? Because, after I felt irritated a few times, I started to think, well, that doesn't make any sense, no? Because anyway, that's what I'm doing now. Why would I do it irritated? It doesn't make sense. It just makes me sick, And so I started to dig, and it's always like that when you work with your emotions. And of course, in the future, we're going to get into the emotions. But right now, we're going slowly, pace at a slow pace, step by step. And what I want to share in this video is more about how can you get inspired and alive and following your path in the sense that you are also intuitive. So we're always going from this intuitive to this rational thing and not opposing these two. So in this case, when I dig, I found, yeah, of course I got irritated because I'm spending lots of time on this irritating thing, and then it works once, it doesn't work, then it works after 10 times doing the same thing, suddenly it works. You don't even understand why it didn't work before. Anyway, maybe I was just going too quick. Maybe the computer is too old, maybe whatever. What was interesting in this case is that I was able to come back to my own computer, which is my own brain, and why do I get irritated? And of course, the superficie, like it looks like, no, it's on patience. I'm not patient because I'm losing time. But then if you dig a little bit better and more thoroughly, what is it? And I started to really find this sense that, of course, I was born in a kind of astrological style that I am a little bit, how you say, wild. I don't like to do what I'm told. I like to obey when I decide to, and I do it. I obey, but when I don't want to, I don't actually usually obey to anybody if I don't decide that I will, which has been a good habit in my case because it avoids for me this sense of being abused or whatever. Whenever I felt abused in my life, I know I was somehow asking for it. So I don't have to blame anybody about it, you know. But in this case, anyway, in this case, I'm just alone with my machine. And, you know, when you're doing these things, it's only machines. There's nobody there anyway. So what's the point, you know? You look at yourself in the mirror of your own mind, and what's the point of getting irritated, you know? So as I did use my rational mind and the Dharma training to look at myself and think, well, what the hell? It doesn't matter. Just find that this is a practice too. It doesn't matter whatever it is you're doing. If you have to do it really because you did decide to help your mother doing it, just make that something useful in your spiritual path. Doesn't matter, even if it looks so stupid, no? Or so, you know, sometimes it's irritating because they give you a code, but then the code is going to expire like James Bond, it's going to explode, you know, and then you have to quickly, that's good, it doesn't explode really, but, and then you have to quickly, but then the time you get there, the code is another one, and anyway, yeah. So in this case, what says the text is, in any case, I'm translating from Spanish, okay? In any case, if you practice the Dharma with no confidence, your effort will be lost, and whatever you do will become futile. Futile, I don't know if it's English, but no use, useless. And anything that you will do, the essential point is to remain free from doubt and free from a lack of confidence. This is beautiful. This is Padmasambhava. It makes me cry, so beautiful. This is really beautiful. So we will talk about these books, and this is actually a text that was found, and that Yeshe Tsogyal, the lady Yeshe Tsogyal, which I did talk about a few times, and actually in my book, in my romance, she is the main character in my romance that's called The Bee Island, or The Bees Island. She wrote this down, and these are instructions, oral instruction from Padmasambhava. Yeah, 8th century. So, yeah, I have these boops coming when I think about it. It's so wonderful that we have access to all this. And this is what happened to me this morning, is that actually I got up, I was quite motivated because I anyway had to plant some vegetables because my neighbor left me lots of vegetables that have to be planted, and the rain stopped, a little bit of sunshine, and also I had to take care of my body. to, you know, like breathe in and move in the body so that it gets in a good relationship with that new day starting at my age, whatever that is, yeah. And I didn't put internet on, but I had somehow, it's very strange actually, because my internet was not working, but I did have access to a message from Erik Pema, who is the translator of this book. Erik Pema Kunsang, who is a great translator, and I knew him when I was young actually. I met him because the first time I went to see Teachings, that was in Nepal, in Badrinath, and I was 18 years old, and I had no idea about nothing. Only I had the idea that I read, since I was 15, books of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, and I was completely crazy about the Book of the Dead, the Bardo Todol. And so that's the only thing I knew. And when I was there, I went to the monastery. At that time, Chechen didn't exist yet, but it was a monastery where Chokyi Rinpoche was teaching to Westerners. And the person who was translating was Erik, this same man. He was very young at that time too. Well, not as much as I was young, but young. And I was irritated at him because he was speaking so low that I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I was thinking, what the hell? Why does he translate for us and we cannot hear what he's saying? But anyway, it's because of my temper. He was wonderful and very nice anyway. But this to tell you that I remember him, and he's doing very, very wonderful work. You can really trust his work. And so I opened my phone just to see if there was something very important that would not rely on internet. But actually, somehow, my phone had this text coming from Facebook, I think, from Erik. And I suddenly thought, this is incredible. This text is wonderful. I want to keep it. And so I tried to copy it, but that was too much, you know, to copy it from internet without having internet. That was a lot, no? So actually I did put a little bit of internet on my phone so I could at least copy the text, and I did copy and paste that text. I thought this text is wonderful. And then I thought, well, I have these books, no? I have this book which is called The Instructions of Padmasambhava to Yeshe Tsogyal, Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal. And so this is how I found the Spanish book, and then I found the English one, and I didn't know it was the same because I did not finish reading both of them, to tell you the truth. Even though I did read lots of books about Yeshe Tsogyal and Padmasambhava, but not this one completely. And so just to tell you that it was suddenly a message, and I thought, well, this message makes a lot of sense in our videos that we are starting to explore together, because it's very important nowadays. It's modern life. We are not in the same kind of, how you say, we're not in the same bath, cultural bath, than people used to be, for example, in India or in Tibet, or even in what's now called Pakistan or what's now called Afghanistan. It was very different at that time. And so we really need to find how can we make this situation of benefit for ourselves and not the opposite. And if we did choose the Dharma, to understand what, in the sense of Himalayan Dharma, the Dharma that comes from Himalaya and that does join together the roots, I would say actually the roots of techniques that come from Shivaism, that come from the Taoism, that comes from the Bönpo. All these techniques were kind of filtered, and they were very properly put together in some kind of a like a big dictionary of possibilities that people could practice to help themselves on the path. Specifically, as I told you, because on the path, not everybody has the same skills naturally, not everybody has the same obstacles naturally, not everybody takes the same time to do things. And so it's very, very important that we can use different techniques and different ways, skillful means to do our practice. Of course, if you are in the magic world of the Vajrayana, and that's what really attracts you, and that's my case, I fell completely in love, completely dramatically forever in this life. I think really, I believe I was already like that before. I really believe that when I found the Vajrayana, thanks to Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, by his wonderful, incredible work, amazing prints he left in the West in English, and then they were really translated in all these Western languages. Actually, I read the books of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche in many languages, but of course in English is the basic, how they worked from United States. And since that moment, I felt this is home, this is my thing, you know. And Yeshe Tsogyal and Padmasambhava was like, this is my father and my mother, you know. It's not lacking of respect for my physical father and mother, biological now. Of course, I can respect that because that's my, how could you say, that's the ground I prepared to be born this time, no? I have to assume the karma. If you saw all the videos I did before, you can join together everything I have been saying, because this is progressive, no? It's not like really interesting to see only one of the videos. If you see all of the videos, then you get it, because I'm not being totally rational and I'm not being totally intuitive. I'm mixing both, because I think this is the best way to always refresh your path and not lose your energy. Because if you are attracted to Vajrayana, you need to get to a point where you really feel that you are so passionate about your path and so dedicated to this path. In the same time, maybe you were afraid of the sufferings of samsara. For example, I have always been afraid. They have categoric, the Tibetans, I have always felt fear, now less, but I did in the past much more, about being reborn. That's one of the category, because, when you read these books, you find out they thought about all of it. It's not, you don't really need to redo this. It's done already, Don't need to lose your time redoing it again. Your intuitive journey is what redoes it. You do it again from intuition, but you don't need to redo the vision and the intelligent, rational, even poetical explanation of all these things. You just need to be linked to genuine teachers and genuine sanghas and genuine text. So anyway, if that is your case, and you feel the fear, in my case, of rebirth, to be born again, because this time my birth was not very bad, it was not very good neither, but it did feel really like being born in a cuckoo house of craziness. I thought this human world is crazy, so it was very appealing to me to be born in a place where I felt like this is so crazy that I don't know if I am the crazy. Are they all crazy? What the hell is going to make sense in this? Doesn't make any sense. I was a child in the United States. I could see on the TV the Vietnam War. And, they always try to make you buy this. None of this makes any sense. You don't need even to think about it, It's just negative emotions. I knew it. I didn't need the teachings to know it, but at least when I found the teaching, then I suddenly say, this makes sense. This really makes sense. Of course, when it's Vajrayana, in the sense of the Buddhism, you are going into something that is not rational, really, and in the same time, it does build itself on a rational understanding of suffering. So actually, the Buddhist path is like, you have this ethic from the beginning, like even if you are not a monk or a nun, you can have some ethical principles, or if you're a monk or a nun, you have more, you have over 300. And then from that setup of ethical behavior, you start to build merit enough so that you can start to be able to work not only for yourself, but also in relationship to others, which is not easy because people, I know we like to say we are so nice and we like to be romantic about love and all that, but the truth is that the more you get into what it is to try to help each other and what you try to be lovable and loved and all that, the more you, of course, are going to meet the opposite, which is maybe deception, maybe the lack of love, maybe you wanted to help somebody, but then you didn't do the right thing, or maybe you did the right thing, but that other person is not really ready yet. Some people get ready 20 years later, you know. This I really noticed. I had lots of people talking to me 20 or 30 years later or 15 years later, of course, as a dance teacher, but I always was inspired by Dharma in my dance. So if at that time you had expectations about what you were doing, then you get deceptions. And then, of course, from all this experience of trying to help and trying to do your best to concentrate on your own path and in the same time helping others, you find that helping others is so very exhausting that it does exhaust your ego. Either it exhausts your ego, either you don't make it, you know. I mean, you don't make it as a Dharma practitioner, I mean. So this is why the preparation in the beginning is very important, because there's no Vajrayana, which is the magic network of the magical network that goes from future to the past, from the past to the present. It goes through all times, all beings, all of what is the illusion of our lives, and the illusions of what we think is history, or the illusion of what we think is the utopia, you know, all these things. But it does go through all of these, and the Sangha is the network of all people dedicated to awakening. Dedicated to awakening at a very basic level, or at the highest of all levels, or maybe they seem basic but they are very high, maybe they seem high, they're not that high. Anyway, that's the Sangha. And it's magical because you can start to feel that you are in that network. You're not completely contrived with the materialistic, this now is 2024 and I am now in this country, I have this age and I live this and I am like me and you and you and me. You cannot, you can at one point don't feel like that anymore. So you don't have to some kind of prove to other people who you are. It's not needed anymore. It was needed when you were young because you were full of doubt or full of uncertainty, you know. So this is why when you do something, you have to really find a way that you can do it from your whole heart and take the risks, like I'm going to do now. No death, no death, tremendous victory. No death, no death, shoot the shadows. Me voici en présence ici et maintenant. Mon cœur, mon être sont l'œuvre de l'univers. Voici mon authentique offrande de nudité en hommage à ce grand mystère. Puisse ma présence manifester la vérité, puisse ma présence manifester ma vérité. Samaya, ma gratitude est un souffle sacré, la promesse de mon souffle scellé dans ce corps de chair et de lumière. So this is a first thought, best thought. I had actually the idea I would sing a prayer that I wrote for myself, but actually my idea was to sing the French one, but what got out on the video now was first the English one. The English one was 3 things. I had dreams. I had dreams of these words: no date, no death, tremendous victory. That was a second dream, tremendous victory. You know, like you wake up and you hear tremendous victory. That's nice, no? And then the last one was shoot the shadows. And when I had this dream, I heard shoot the shadows, and I could see children playing in black and white, and the shadows of their playing, they were playing with a butterfly net, and they were shooting the butterfly net, but we could not see anything else than the shadows of the children, the shadows of the butterfly net against a white wall, and that was the dream. And so I went to ask my very dear friend Lama Tashi Lamo, Spanish, and she is a great practitioner and teacher in the Sangha of the great yogi Khenpo Tsultrim Gyatso Rinpoche. And she told me, sing the words and dance this song. So I did it. Actually, I did it in Barcelona, I did it in Lisbon, I did it with a few people, and that became one of the prayers that I have in my life. I didn't really understand the prayer, to tell you the truth, because it's a koan, no? No date, no death, tremendous victory, no date, no death, shoot the shadows. And then later I have this other song in French, and that other song I wrote more in relationship with my students. I wanted to have a song about how you can prepare yourself for a dance when you're offering your dance, and you're offering your dance like if you were naked. So that's why in the French words it said my offering of nakedness, because the nakedness is about the nature of your mind gets naked, doesn't need any more to pretend or to defend or to or to sell and buy stuff. And so it's very useful to do these kind of things. I always invite all of us to paint, to do calligraphic. I did all of these and I do all of these still. Or if you like painting, sculpture, dancing is wonderful, because dancing is like something that can be all day long, because whatever you do could be a dance. It just depends how you think about your body moving in space, no? When I'm doing something, it is a dance. So I can extend that dance into daily life. So it can be a bridge between your meditation practice and art, but also practical life, because that's the whole thing, no? How can you bring together this paradoxes? The whole Buddha Dharma is paradox. It's paradoxal all the time. And of course, the intuition is that you trust that the world, and nowadays the world has one thing that is really, really very rich and very wonderful, is that we can have access to text, to teachings, and to people that we used to not have access. And that is also our problem in the same time, because that makes that we are not able to value so much what it is that we receive. You know, I've been listening lately to some podcast. I will send it by my YouTubes. Be always aware that when I have time, I'm going to put links under the videos. I tell you again, I will do that, so you can check different links. But this podcast was from the Siddhartha Intent from Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche. And actually, it's a lady, I don't know who she is actually, who was telling her story in Tibet before the Tibetans people had to run away. That was exactly the same time when the Dalai Lama was invited by Mao Zedong. That Mao Zedong kind of tricked them, made them hope for something that was absolutely not going to happen. But anyway, they did hope. And then later, when the Dalai Lama came back, he ran away from Tibet. So it's a long time ago. And she, in that time, was a young lady. She was like, I think she says she was a little bit younger, like 18 than Khandro. Khandro Tsering was 20, something like that, or the opposite, I don't remember. Anyway, 18, 20s. And she's telling how she was in that country, you know, that's a country, there was no shops and movies, or there was only the mountains and the sky and the animals and maybe a little bit of food, not that much food, you know, not that much diversity of things, maybe a lot of light and a lot of vivid colors in that light, cold and hot, a very difficult country to live in. And so that makes the people of this country kind of tough, no? But also their mind, if they dedicate themselves to practice, which is the case, it did happen since 1,000 years and more, that they did dedicate to practice as a people, but also as individuals. So you do have great masters that were produced by this situation of the highest mountain of the world. And she is telling that she would be in the teachings and with the great master who is also Dzongsa, but I forgot how to say all his name in Tibetan, but the very famous Dzongsa, that you can see images of him dancing, wonderful master. And she was telling how, I will put the link here later, how wonderful he was. She tells a lot about him. And then she says that they were in these teachings for 1 full year, all day long, every day. Like she says, not 2 hours or 3, like 8 hours a day. And then also the masters would dance, and they would sometimes be with her in a little group or sometimes more. And then there was a moment they had to stop for political reasons for 3 months. But then they started again. So the whole thing. And then at the end, she says that she suddenly had this intuition that it was finished, that it was gone, that they would never see them again. And of course, she did run away also, no, from Tibet. And I suppose, I don't know who she was, but maybe I will find out. And she must be quite old now, because she tells that story that she was at that time in 1959, she was 20 around. So it's wonderful to listen to that and think, wow, I'm receiving these kind of teachings. I'm receiving things that come from people who were in that situation, which is on one hand, very naked situation. You know, there's no shops, there's no internet, there's no phones, there's lots of dangers, there's not so much food, there's not much distractions. And she's a lady, huh? And so she could not only receive the teachings just at the moment that the Tibet was going to really be completely slaughtered, like destroyed everything, destroy all the temples and destroy the books and kill the people. This was really dramatic, but she did receive that for a year or something like that. And then she has this intuition that it's finished. And then now she tells us her story. And we are in this situation that we don't know what's going to happen, because the world is becoming very, the human world is becoming very unstable and full of, I would call it, intensive emotional drive, yeah. And at the same time, many of us have access to teachings. We have access to even books, or to even books by internet. You can buy a book by internet and you have it now. It's incredible. Like I have a book about Yeshe Tsogyal's life in my machine. In that thing, you can read the book immediately. It's wonderful. And these 3 books I told you about in the first video of this series, I have them also in this Kindle thing. I read the whole thing in Kindle because I could put the letters greater, so I don't have to put glasses to read, and I don't get tired in my eyes. So this is a luck. We're very lucky, but what makes us not lucky is that because of that, we get distracted. Because of that, we're not sure. Because of that, you know, what happens is that when you're practicing, whatever makes sense and digs into the habitual tendencies, you do meet, like, it's like when you are doing, your garden, you're going to meet stones, and you're going to meet maybe something smells good, something smells bad, maybe there's suddenly a snake, maybe whatever, no? So when it's about your own digging of yourself, you will get in touch with things that are not always the things that you thought they should be, or maybe you're going to feel like some memories when they come up, it's not the nicest of all feelings. Or maybe you have a really good master, but that master is going to be like a good friend. He's going to cut through your shortcomings. He's going to help you by means that are not always soft. But it's all depends on ourselves, no? Yeah? So if you have a friend and your friend is telling something that you don't like to hear, it's maybe that you are damn lucky to have such a friend, because when you have friends that only tell you yes, 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 and then maybe they avoid to comment, and then maybe they turn their head around so that they don't have to get in touch with the tough relationships of helping you really, that's not good friends. The good friend is that one that really addresses your shortcomings and addresses what you need to hear and to see, because they can see it and you can't. So anyway, the first thought, best thought of a song, of a poetry that you sing, for example, in this case, like I sang for you these two prayers of mine, what is very useful is that as you write it by yourself, you remember it better. And you can start of creating the path, but without being fantasist about the path. That means that you are really on the path of your ancestors, on the path of your teachers, of your lineages, of the masters that did realize, supposedly in the past, but they are your future somehow. So the past and the future in the magical world becomes some kind of very immediate possibility, because your mind is not limited by this rational, linear belief. And even when we are linear and rational, we think things are historical, things are scientific, but then you find out it's not like that, no? Because whatever was scientific last century is not the same now, and whatever was historical is people who said that, but actually they could just change it. Maybe they did change it, so it doesn't matter that much. At the end, you do get the juice of that, That's what happens to you now here. It's the juice of this education, of this culture, of whatever it is that's happening to you. But how do you make the best of it? How do you make the best of yourself? And how do you make the best of this diversity of possible choices? You cannot choose everything, yeah? Of course, Vajrayana, in the sense of the yana means a vehicle, no? A vehicle like a car. So Vajrayana is a vehicle that, if it's like what we call Inayana, it means it's smaller. It doesn't mean that the vehicle is small. It means that you go in a path that's a little bit more short. You're not going to have lots of choices. You're going to just do like that. I don't marry. I don't make a family. I don't let my hair grow. I don't eat after this hour. I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm a monk. I'm a nun, or something similar. If you get into the Mahayana, and remind, please, as a Buddhist, you can go through all of them. You don't need to stay forever in one of them. You just need to be in the one that is appropriate for you in relationship with how you can go through. Sometimes the best thing to do if you want to stop drinking alcohol is not to go in places where people drink alcohol, and not to see these very good friends that drink alcohol. That's the best thing to do, because that's what you need to do. Later, maybe you're able to be with them and not drink alcohol, or maybe you're not. It's up to you. You understand? So there is something like that is personal responsibility, that you start your journey by studying what is that journey. So the Inayana is this narrow path. It's not narrow in the sense that it's not appropriate. It's just that you're not going too quick and you're not having too much choice. You're just doing what is needed so that you can get there. And then when you get the Mahayana, it's larger. What does it mean? It means that some people are coming like on a big road, no? Some cars go like that and go like that, and then you can go out and in. So it's the life, the people, the animals, the everything. How can you be useful? And how, as I am working on my own personal secret, how would I say, nakedness, no? How can I get rid of whatever it is that is not needed and reach this blissful place that is the nature of my own mind? It is possible because thanks to the fact that I'm doing my best to help people, I'm improving because people give to me everything I need to have a mirror, the mirror of how people sometimes don't give back to me exactly what I was expecting, or maybe I can see something about my own behavior thanks to the fact that I am doing my best to help people, but they give something back to me. You understand? So actually they're helping you. And so this bodhisattva path, it takes a lot of courage. It's very brave because somehow if you really are a sincere bodhisattva, you are kind of putting the priority of this in front of the ego-orientated illusion of needs, no? Like, I need this, I need that, I want absolutely to have a family, I want absolutely to have a house, to have a dog, to have this, to have that. Of course, no problem. In the Buddhist point of view, nobody is telling to anybody not to do that. But it is not the priority in this case. The priority in this case is how can you do whatever you decided to do and be in the same time on your path and being useful to others. And of course, like I would tell you in my case, as I dedicated lots of time to share with students the dance and give to that dance a meaningful experience inside of the experience of your eyes, your ears, your skin, your smell, your taste, your mind, your body, your bones, your blood, your breath, and then the space, and then the time, and then the dreams, and then the intention, no intention, and then the relationship, all of this stuff. It's enormous. With dance, it's wonderful because the dance can be something that is the beginning of something else, because all extensions are from the body anyway. If you play an instrument, it's a kind of a dance. If you do architecture, it's a kind of a dance. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that now, but this whole experience is wonderful, and it's in the same time very challenging, because what I met with the people I was supposedly trying to help was sometimes incredible, because sometimes actually it did work, and sometimes it did not. Sometimes even it became the challenge that I was maybe not perceived as a good person. Maybe I was perceived as somebody who's doing something wrong, or maybe people would complain about me, or maybe they would, everybody, how would they say that? You can never please everybody, is that it? Yeah, you cannot please everybody anyway. But on another hand, you're not trying to please everybody, but you are getting the message. It's a little bit like Chogyam Trungpa says that. It's like if you have, these arrows. It's not arrows, but it's little thing they do like that, no? So if you go in the center, you have the message that you touch the center. And if you wanted to touch the center and you're not even in the, I don't know how you say it in English, you didn't even hit the whole circle. So you have the message. The message is that you didn't hit the circle. So the message is what gives you an indication, because your set of mind in the rational of the Buddha Dharma studying is that you're not judging yourself, you're not criticizing yourself. Your autocriticism is only out of common sense. A little bit like, okay, I drink too much wine, I'm getting sick, I have to stop. So this is just common sense. It's not moral, because maybe morally you don't really care. You could drink lots of wine. That's not the topic. The topic is that you get to the common sense that at one point, if you want to live long enough to use this human body to go towards the goal of being free from all the negative emotions and being free from all the creation of suffering and being free also from the subtle, much more subtle attachment to duality and see the nature of mind, well, in that case, of course, the priority is to stop drinking, because otherwise you're not going to live time enough. That's it. You know, it's not a frame of mind here in the Buddhism that this common sense is something that is good and the other one is bad. It's not like that. It's more that you are finding what's the best because you are your own friend. You remember that, yeah? Okay. So in the Mahayana, that's it. The Mahayana is the vehicle that is larger. So it's not the vehicle that's larger, it's actually the road. It's larger. So you can have more situations, and maybe you do things that you wouldn't do in the first vehicle, because in this first vehicle you were a little bit like trying to reduce temptations and reduce distractions, yeah? But you were doing it because that's what you needed. But then when you are opening, you still have this discipline that is not stiff. It's just that you understand what's important. That's the discipline, no? You understood what's your priority, what's important. And then you start doing your best to help and to help each other. And then slowly, you start to understand that actually it's not really, there's no others and there's no me. And so it starts to get into this magical realm that people call shamanism, or maybe they call it animist, but it's not needed to call it anything. It's just things as they are. Things as they are live in different dimensions at the same time, all the layers at the same time. So of course, as you get somehow more certainty about your path, and you don't get too much, I would say, overwhelmed, distracted, disorientated by the fascination of your magical realm of dreams or of visions or of drugs or whatever it is that makes you suddenly find that this world of the unknown magical display, that suddenly that could become an obstacle too. As an artist, it's very easy, to understand that, because you can get trapped in whatever emotional realm, the sixth world, you remember? You can get trapped. And actually, I've noticed that in my sessions, when people get trapped and they need somebody to help them, because otherwise they cannot get out of there. And that can happen to all of us. We can always get trapped. So at one point, if you have already this, you built a common sense, a knowledge of what is right and what is wrong in relationship to where am I now? And when you get to the Vajrayana, you really need somebody to help you, because otherwise you get completely easily not only trapped, but how you say? I forgot the word in English. Like, somebody tricks you. Even maybe it's a spirit tricks you, whatever, it doesn't matter, Or you trick yourself. It's the same thing, actually. When a spirit can trick me, it's because I decided to be tricked. But anyway, it's so deeply not awareness, it's so deeply out of ignorance that anyway, you're not going to blame yourself. But it's true also that everything that happens to us, we just go through it without needed to blame anybody. Because when you did your mind training, you understood that you don't need to blame. So this also brings us to one thing I'm going to say that I know it's not politically correct and I don't care anyway. Is that when you feel that you suffered of what they call abuse or whatever it is, if you are really a practitioner and if you are really going, I'm talking about yourself, I'm not talking about how to relate with others when other people is not feeling good and is feeling unhappy. You need, of course, to give help. But when it's yourself, you can decide that whatever happened to you, it's actually okay, because it depends on you. So like imagine you had a master, and the master, you find out that other people think he's bad. And they are like kind of creating a whole political thing about that. Okay, so that's what they choose to do. But maybe you don't choose to do that. And maybe if you don't choose to do that, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to check on yourself. How do you feel? And you start to understand that actually you can feel, that's my case, okay with everything that happened to you. All of it. And I know what I'm talking about because lots of things happened to me, and it's okay, because it's only about how do I rely with that. And I can invite you to read a very good book about this, which has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but it does ultimately have to do. It's Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a man, I don't know the name of the book, but anyway, it's his first book. He was in concentration camp during the war. He's Jewish. And he survived. And then he wrote that book. I have it here. I have it in Spanish, actually. And he really describes how he could survive because he could find inside of himself something that has to do with the freedom of your inner being. In that situation, which is tremendously one of the most horrible situations a human being can experience. I know maybe there's others, but this one is very horrible. It's not only horrible because you are afraid, or because you don't have food, or because your loved ones were killed, or because you see people dying in front of you, because you are always threatened. It's not only that. It's also, of course, for my sensitivity, it's also difficult to live feeling that people around you of your condition, human condition, actually want to harm you. Just that feeling that others want to harm me is very difficult. And it's very difficult to not become the same, because you could, of course, die, you could be a victim, but you could also become yourself, pure hatred and resentment. That's also possible. You can make also art with that. And it's what lots of artists have done. They have taken suffering and tremendous suffering and horrible suffering of the most deepest hell and made out art of that. But then you can also become a monster yourself, because it's like a sickness. You just catched it. You catch the hatred, and it's very easy to fall in these. So if you understand your responsibility and you build, this is what I'm talking about, certainty, this certainty and this, what I just read to you, I'm going to say it again. It was in Spanish. So this is what I found this morning. Yeah. In all cases, if you practice Dharma with no trust, your effort will be lost, and whatever you do will be useless. Anything that you would do, the most important essential point is to remain free from doubt and free from a lack of confidence. So this is very important. This is one of the things I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to point out that, of course, when we're talking about the vision of the path, and we start to understand that in the Buddhism you have all these different degrees of the path. In our modern world, we need a little bit to see a little bit the whole map, because we're not in the old Tibet where you could just get what you get. There's no, in Tibet there was no shops, there were no internet, there were no, so you just got what you get, you know. If you find a master, that's the one you found, and if you don't feel that one, you have to walk barefoot maybe, or with little shoes, very far away in a dangerous country to find another one. Yeah. Now it's different. We have whatever we want, but we can get lost in whatever labyrinthic brain-like world we are building, because we are building nowadays a world that looks like a brain. It's just a labyrinth, a brain and the guts. So we have to find the string to go through and to reach. How do we get out of there? So you need confidence and certainty. So when you are working, of course, we said in these last videos, the 4 thoughts that bring you to understand the priorities if you are a Dharma practitioner. Precious human body, all about precious human body. I told you the book. The book was The Words of My Perfect Teacher, and I told you be careful, because the book from the beginning to the end has different perspective of how you see the world. So it's not at all the same at the end that it is in the beginning, but that's how it is, because you're changing as you do your path. Precious human body. What is the freedom of being able to have the precious human body? It's not only because you have a human look, it's because you have also the human freedom, and the possibility to go on this journey. And then impermanence, you understand death is always there. So it's like first moment is the last moment, the first moment is the last, and the breath, first time, last time, in, out. As an artist, for example, an artist that works in theater, easy to understand, because even if you dance every night in the same theater, it's always different. So you understand this thing, it's always changing. But also everything we live is appeared and will disappear, and it is somehow under the law of the material appearances, which is things come together and fall apart. And that's the way it is. All of us, all the animals, all the plants, all the things we know, all the houses, all even the best, the most important things in Paris, everything just disappears. Actually, just look now. What do you know about your family? Like 200 years ago, do you know? Maybe you do, but a lot of us don't know. So it just gets lost. And even if you think you're going to be so important and memorable, they will forget you too. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So this is not to be pessimistic. It's to be common sense. Yeah. That at one point you can trust, because you check what is true, no matter if it's now or earlier or later, and what is true no matter if I am Russian or I am Indian or I am Chinese or I am American or I am from Bali. It's true. These things I told you are true in both, in all these places, no? And in all kind of times. The karma is you're trying to sort out, and in the book everything is explained. I don't need to do it in a video. It's no use, because there's lots of videos and I will try to find some to help you. But anyway, this book is very good. And so, actually, I can read a little bit about karma here. So, like he says, do not take lightly small misdeeds, believing they can do no harm. Even a tiny spark of fire can set alight a mountain of hay. So, I live in a place that had huge fires. And I have seen lately lots of fires starting and getting closer to the house. So this is obvious. If you have some hay, and just a little bit is enough with the wind. Do not take lightly small good deeds, believing they can hardly help. For drops of water, one by one, in time can fill a giant pot. From seeds no bigger than a mustard grain grow vast ashota trees, which in a single year can put out branches, each a league in length, but even greater is the growth of good and evil. Evil. So that means that for all good or bad actions, the intention is far the most important factor that determines whether they are positive or negative, heavy or light. So here, what it means is that your intention, and this is where you have to rely on yourself, because only you know your real intention from within. Because of course you could think, oh, I did that because I wanted to help him so much. But then you find out, but maybe it's not true. So this is where you have to be healthy in your auto-criticism, because you're a friend to yourself. You want to know the truth. You don't want to fool yourself and to lie to yourself. So you're not judging yourself or saying, oh, you thought you were helping him, but the truth is that you just wanted him to love you. That's possible. It's not that it's bad that you want him to love you. The problem is that your motivation was not to help. The motivation was something else. And so you didn't help because actually what you wanted is that person to love you. So if you don't know it, who knows it? You understand? So this is the real honesty that we need, because when we have this honesty, the clarity becomes about the common sense. And then on the ground of common sense, from that ground, everything is possible. But you don't need to doubt, and you don't need to be only 99% inside of your motivation. You can be 100% because you know your motivation. You start to know yourself. You start to know that what your motivation is. Even if other people don't believe you, you know it. This is why in the mind training we say, if you have two, choose the best. Two is what others think and what you think. But here, when we say that you choose the best of these two, it's not that the best is not the accurate word, but you choose the most true. Is that you know what is true in your own mind. If you dig, you know the truth. What I really want is to help that person. And then maybe in the middle of all that, I want to be loved and all that, but my real motivation is that, because you know it, nobody else knows it. So sometimes you can do things that don't look so virtuous, but they are. And sometimes you could do something that are look very virtuous, but in the truth they are not. You understand? And this is also very important, because like I had this experience. I had somebody who I trust very much, and I was in a very difficult moment of my life, and that person was young. So first I helped somehow that person to get out of some kind of depression, and then I gave to that person some kind of professional possibilities, and also to have more I would say self-confidence and all that. And that person at one point betrayed me, and betrayed me very, very roughly. And later that person asked to me forgiveness. So anyway, I was not mad at that person. I was just hurt at one point, and then later I learned how to work with my hurt. So the hurt slowly healed. But anyway, that person, when it was a woman, she wanted the forgiveness, or she at least said so. And I just felt that she didn't know at that moment that she was betraying me. It's not because she could not know, it's because she was not in touch with her true motivation. You understand? So actually she was lying to me, but she was not lying to me in the sense of completely planning that she would be so so bad and so evil and all that. It's because something evil can start out of the ignorance that we don't know ourselves. And that's so important, because if we would all be more dedicated to this, we would not need to point out others so much. It would be much easier, We could help each other much better. And we could also accept each other much better when that good friend of yours tells you something that is not what you wanted to hear, it could be useful, and vice versa. But of course, you can also, when you're very sincere and full of love, you could tell somebody that you could tell, you're so beautiful, what you're doing is wonderful, I love it, it's great. You understand? Thank you so much for doing this. Of course, yeah. It's just that it's not hypocritical. It's not that you have in your agenda when you say that. You're not expecting to get out of that nice flattery some kind of benefits. And you know that that's not what you're doing. So you understand? Yeah, okay. So this is the Dharma in the point of view of the beginner. And once this is done, you don't need to do it all the time because it's very quick. You start to know quickly. You know you don't want to kill people. You know you don't want to steal people. You know you don't want to lie, but you don't want also to say all the time, spell out everything. So all of this is so clear that you don't need to take time on it. Maybe you just need to refresh times to times, you know? And then the karma is that. So little seeds can give big trees. Either that is merit, which means good conditions for you and your practice and for also people around you, or it could be a seed of something that's not good in the sense that it brings suffering, complication, pain, and also trouble. So if that is the case, well, you will have this trouble can grow. That's karma. And of course, you also experience the karma of things that comes from a seed that was already there. So that's normal, you know, it's like, I can give you also an example. Once I was in a full retreat alone and I had some kind of a stress. And then 2 months later, I start to lose my hair and I was not in the stress anymore. So I could, because you're in a retreat, you are much more aware of what's going on because you're all alone. So you can notice things much better. And actually, I understood that it took 2 months for the result of my stress to manifest. So 2 months is not much, but it can be 20 years, can be, something can take a lot of time to get out, which is obvious when you look at the world. You can see that things take time. And as there's lots of seeds and lots of circumstances and lots of conditions and causes, everything can happen because all of these things at one point pop out, and they pop out regarding the common, the collective karma, no? The collective karma is how we all together live this network that we call humanity in this case, of course, because we are talking this language of humanity, but maybe it goes beyond human beings, but I'm talking as a human being with the language of human beings. Okay, so the best teacher is one who attacks your hidden faults. The best instruction is one aimed squarely at those hidden faults. So this is very useful. This is always in the book of The Words of My Perfect Teacher, which I have been talking about. And it's very useful to have this book because you can find all the details, of course, translate that into your modern condition, your modern world, and be creative about this, because when you are working with intuition and art, the first thought, best thought, is what pops up of you before you make a concept of that. So it's before, it's fresh, it's poof, now. And that always takes place in some kind of a surrounding, like a mind surrounding, a physical surrounding, and I would say some kind of energy situation. So you would say, like, you have your rational mind. The rational mind is the one that obeys to mathematics, for example. Yeah, it could be rational, could be just that you are able to understand numbers and able to understand geometrics. So this is something that is very obvious because I'm in a house and it obeys to mathematics. Yeah. And my glasses, they obey to mathematics, otherwise they wouldn't stand on my nose. They have to have some mathematics, yeah, like geometrical forms, no? So this is the rational. But the magic at this point is that you really dedicate yourself full-heartedly to that presence, and you dedicate to that with certainty. Like if, for example, you need to heal, whatever you need to heal in your body, you're not going to be thinking maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, because it won't work. Nothing works if you think like that, never. You always think it's already done, it's already working. Even if you're playing piano, you don't know how to play piano. It's not so easy, no? But then you are in your mind, it's going to work, it works. It's just that it doesn't reach yet all my fingers, but it is doing, it's going to work. You understand? It's a little bit like praying. When you pray, may all beings be happy. Immediately, they're all happy in your mind. But of course, if everybody would do that, imagine. Yeah, it's not imagine John Lennon, it's much easier. just feel all beings are happy, all beings are happy, all beings are happy, may all beings be happy, all beings are happy. All beings are free from suffering, all beings are free from suffering. May they all be in the joy that comes from wishing them to not suffer, and that comes from wishing them to be happy. May they enjoy that joy that is a bliss that never ends, that has no limits. And may all this bliss open them to the oneness of all things beyond the idea of good and bad, I like, I don't like, I hate, I love, I'm attached, I'm rejected. Beyond all of this, I can steady remain and relax in this equanimity. I can find this equanimity, and all beings can find this equanimity of simply feeling the nature of your own being, the nature of your own mind is completely, of course, okay, far beyond the ideas that you would judge or control or have some kind of an opinion about things. That's how peace comes up, because it's the nature that is completely hidden by, it's like you cannot find that nature of peace because it is always covered, no, veiled by other kinds of agendas all the time, most of the time. So just to end this, because I wanted this video to be a little bit free and a little bit vivid, but I did take a few notes. You see, they are very small little notes, completely confusing, but I understand them. And yes, I wanted to give you another example. That was a funny one. Like, there's another thing that is important to understand, is that it can take a long time, you know? So it's a little bit like my example of myself with the internet, that irritates me so much to spend such a long time. At the end, it's stupid, no? Why would I put myself in that kind of mindset? I have to just decide. At one point, it's like that. You decide with no doubt that this is now, you're going to spend whatever time you have on this computer. You don't like to do that, but it doesn't matter anyway if you like it or not, you know. And so you kind of enter into the equanimity from the door that you're not yet there, but you decide, yes, you are there, and you get there. It's just funny, because the mind is magical. You just get there. But sometimes it can take time. Sometimes it can suddenly happen, sometimes it takes time. So like, and it's very nice. I remember I was in a car with a very close friend of mine who's an Aikido master. So he was already like, I don't know, 4 dan or 5 dan. I don't remember how many dans he had, but he was already a master, and he was doing Aikido since he was a young child. And his master was Sugano Sensei, and Sugano Sensei now has died, but at that time he was alive, and I used to be very often with him because he was close to this person. And one day I was in the car, I remember, and I was behind, but I could hear And that friend of mine, his name is Christoph, and he was driving, and Sugano Sensei was there next to him, and he was telling him, well, I think that in 10 years you're going to be good. And then we laughed, Christoph and me, we laughed so much because that was something like, at one point your mind becomes blank, you're already like working like crazy since you're a child, and you're doing Aikido, you think Aikido, you sleep Aikido, you dream Aikido, you write Aikido, and then your master very nicely, friendly tells you, yeah, in 10 years you're going to be okay. It was not like he would be really good, like he would be okay in 10 years, And we got the message, he was not he was not doing like making belittle that friend of mine. He was giving to that friend of mine the whole world forever. It never stops. So you, at one point, you understand you're already there, but it takes time sometimes. And sometimes happens. And healing is the same. If you do healing practice, because in Vajrayana you have healing practices, they are amazing. They are wow. Wow. I mean, everything is wow if you really get into it. But when you get into it, you fully get into it, you're with your certainty, you have your mind completely established, not in concept, not in judgment, but in something that is true, because you know yourself, you checked yourself. And then at one point when you do the practice, you really bring inside of yourself the healing process, the light process, the breath process. And in the same time, this mind that is not like hoping or fearing so much that you're going to heal or not to heal. You just are healing yourself. You are the healing. And it works. And also, if it did not work, it's also healing because it completely emptied your soul and whatever kind of dreams you have from the fear of death or the fear of sicknesses. Because you understood that something else is there that doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter because you touched that place that is free. So even if you die, it doesn't matter. Because you got there before. Thanks to the healing. For example, the healing practices are wonderful because when you do a healing practice, you are healing really the core of your being, in the sense that you get into that place that is not filth. It's not filth. It's not dirty. What I mean by dirty, there's nothing that veils the consciousness, thanks to that practice of healing. And of course, the sicknesses or the illnesses or the fears can help you to be motivated in the first place. But as you get into the practice, you're not in the fear anymore. The fear was just some kind of a gasolina, like it was giving you the energy, like you put gas in your car. Here, the fear can be a very good gas for art or for whatever you do. But then you understand that as you're not afraid of fear, because this is how you build your certainty, you know that fear is part of it, it's normal. It's just part of the fact that you are born. You cannot be born and not have some kind of a fear, because more or less your body is made out of reactions of fear to avoid whatever can hurt your body. That's just the reactions, no? The normal reactions of survival. So that's not the problem. The problem is when we are afraid of fear, yes? But when you dive into that practice of healing practice because of your motivation to heal, because you were maybe afraid, whatever, or because you feel that you need to live a little bit longer to assume some responsibilities, whatever that is. And then during the practice, you find this place that is completely free and that is not at all the same frame. It's not the same mind frame. And you understand it's very much the real thing, yeah? And it's not so much interesting to put it too much in words and to definitions, because that could be, again, a trap. You could get trapped. That's the whole problem in magical and shamanic practices. is not to get trapped by power, because the power is the human drive. Yeah, we want to be powerful and to control everything and to be the almighty me, the whole mighty me, myself, and I, more mighty than you and yourself and you. So you understand? So this is the trap, because we can get trapped by whatever it is, and that's what Trungpa Rinpoche called spiritual materialism. And you have a whole wonderful book about that, which is called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. I recommend, read it 1,000 times. And we can always get caught, and that's the whole issue, is to remain free. Yeah. You can get caught in the sense of feeling victim. You can be caught in the sense of feeling that you're so helpful to others. You can be caught in the sense of thinking, I don't give a damn about anybody. You can get caught in the sense of feeling, oh, I'm right, the others are wrong. Doesn't matter, whatever it is. At one point, the real Dharma practice is that you let these things come and go and you don't get caught. They just come and go. That's why you need to practice meditation. Because the meditation is the training to let things come and let them go. Otherwise, you cannot work with your emotions if you don't have that. Yeah? So, I'm just going to finish because I have a little text here I would like to read a little bit. Let me see. This was in English, so I think it's the same book. Treasures from Juniper Ridge. I don't know if you can see. And it is, I will write it because I think it's too dark now. Yeah, the weather is changing, so it's getting dark. Maybe you can see now. No, you can't, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, I will read it to you and write it down. It's the profound treasure instructions of Padmasambhava to the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal. So it's a terma, a treasure of the Nyingmapa tradition, the tradition of the elders. And the commentary is by Tulku Urgen Rinpoche, and it is translated and edited by Erik, Pema, Kunsang, and Marcia Binder Schmidt. Very good. So, in this case, Yeshe Tsogyal, Lady Yeshe Tsogyal, is asking questions to Master Padmasambhava. So, this is really good. I'm in 1 hour 22, so this video will be about a little less than 2 hours. The Lady of Karchen asked, Lady of Karchen is Yeshe Tsogyal. Lady of Karchen asked the Lotus Master, from where do all that appears and exists, the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, first arise? The Master replied, all that appears and exists, the phenomena of samsara and nirvana, arise from solidified habitual tendencies of labeling. There are 3 types of labeling: mental labels, cognitive labels, verbalized labels. Mental labels make thoughts move. Cognitive labels build up habitual tendencies. Verbalized labels manifest the manifold objects. It would therefore be better if you stop labeling. Lady Tsogyal asked the Master, how does one become free from attaching labels? The Master replied, when you are free from the thought activity of mental labeling, you will be free from the cognitive labels good and evil. And when free from that, you will also be free from attaching the names of verbalized labeling. By being free from the multitude of dream habits, you are free from labeling names. By being free from that, you will be free from the label bardo. And free from that, you will be free from the label birth. and death. By being free from these, you will have stopped the stream of samsaric rebirth. All phenomena are names labeled by thoughts. These names are not real, so it would be better to be free from labeling. The lady asked, "What is the way to be free from labeling?" The master replied, "The phenomena of samsara and nirvana, even though when labeled and conceptualized, they may appear as enjoyable or offensive, pleasant or painful, as me, myself, and others, and so forth. All naturally dissolve when you neither alter their names nor attach any labels, but leave them in their natural state." Lady Chogyam asked the master, "What is the meeting point beyond both Buddhas and sentient beings?" The master replied, "When there are neither Buddhas nor sentient beings. The natural state is beyond knowing and unknowing, beyond realization and lack of realization, beyond real and unreal, good and evil, and thus free from all types of labeling." Wonderful. I think we will use this more because this book is wonderful. So, of course, when I'm reading these texts are very, very higher points of view than the beginning of the world of my perfect teacher, which leads with more or problems, no? It means more, well, I don't feel good, I feel good, I have this, I have that. So the beginning of the world of my perfect teachers are in this moment that you are a little bit trying to prepare your journey. You're not yet completely clear about your own self and about your honesty and about what is your code to do the journey. How is the code? Yeah. But when I read to you in the same time this book, I mean, an excerpt of the treasures from Juniper Ridge, I am realizing that nowadays we need to some kind understand that the path does not remain in that realm of practical certainties. It's just the basics so that you can plant your seeds and then at one point reach the level that you are not attached to the fruits of your seeds. So first you need to have the fruits, and then you eat the fruits and you see the fruits are so good, and then at one point you can slowly get to a point that you're not attached neither to the bad energy, neither are you attached to the merit itself, but you do generate merit because that's what helps people to find the true nature of their own mind. So of course, to end up with my little paper, it is so confusing. I did talk about everything of this paper. I just forgot to close one of the topics that I opened, which is the first thought, best thought, does start in a circumstance, like a mandala, no? Like in this case, my video started in this place, home, with this window, and it was sunshine when I started. Now it's raining, it's getting cold. So the whole situation and the situation of my body, of my breath, of my I would say weather, no, the weather of my human body. So this is where you have the first thought. The first thought is fresh. The first thought is this that comes up. It pops up, and it pops up before you label, before the labeling. So the whole work is, how can you have this thing come up before the labeling? So you do it a lot of times. It's like a training. You can do it with a brush. You can do it with a movement. You can do it with a song, with the song, with the song. So that's like rhythm helps. The rhythm is also first thought, but usually the basic rhythm is your heart or your breath. They have to work together anyway. So this is the surrounding. And then the first thought is what pops up. And from there, you have a seed. Understand? So this is how you work with art, but this is how you work with speech. This is how you work with everything, all of it. The whole thing is first thought, best thought, everything. So it does bring together rational and magic. The rational is that there is like a situation, yeah? And the situation is magic and rational at the same time. Rational is that maybe I decided to brush the house and it's clean, or maybe I decided to have the window so I could read. So this is rational. I did have a little bit of this rational mind, and then at one point, when the whole thing is there, I just let pop up the first thought. Actually, the first thought was in the morning when I saw this text that I saw on internet, even though I did not have internet, which is so weird. No. And then from there, I found out I had the book. And then from there, I found out that this makes sense in our videos, so that we could, in the same time, prepare the journey and have a mental preparation to understand a little bit what is the journey. And then when we enter into the practice, starting with the body, which I think is appropriate, and that's what will come in the future, we also understand that there is intuition, there is magic. It is not completely linear, and more even so in these times that we work with tools that bring us automatically beyond the linear world, because the tool of internet and the tool of machines and artificial intelligence is beyond the linear perception of physical world. It is going in the quantic world. So you could nowadays practice the Dharma from the beginning with a little bit of the Vajrayana inside of the beginning of the Hinayana, or we could call it Theravada, because Theravada is how the people of Hinayana called themselves. In Tibet, it's a little bit different, because in Tibet, they just put all these three in the name Hinayana, Mahayana, Theravada, but actually, Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana, but actually the Hinayana is called usually Theravada, okay? And it is completely respectful and the same value as all of the others. It's just that there are different moments on your path and different styles. One style is that you work on yourself and you don't get too much entangled with others or with family concerns or social concerns. Or if you are doing social works, it's more on the point of view of charity, things like that. The Mahayana is that you really get involved into the world as somebody who is a bodhisattva and who makes the bodhisattva vow. And you help as much as you can people to also be free from suffering and from the illusion of ignorance, and to go through these veils so they can see the true nature of their blissful consciousness, and then be more peaceful and more loving themselves. So this is the Bodhisattva. I talked about it quite a lot today. And then the last one, which I said is the Vajrayana, is when you enter the magical network that is beyond good and bad, beyond the idea of here and there, beyond the idea of before and after. And then you enter into this world that is what people call Chaman. But in this case, it is really like understanding that the magic potential of your human being is extremely powerful, and that can help you somehow to get quicker access to the nature of your mind. And I really invite you to practice art for that, because art is Vajrayana if it is worked with bodhicitta, with the idea of being free from ignorance and illusions and defilements. So if that is your motivation, and if Dharma is the ground you are building now, art of the first thought, best thought is really already, I would say, introduction into the magical world of Vajrayana. So that later when you practice Vajrayana, you don't become, as a lot of Westerners have had this problem, that they cannot match together the rational and the magical. They cannot match together the East and the West of this world. They cannot match together. That from the beginning they needed to take in charge their own. And then they think maybe they did the wrong thing, or they didn't do it right because of something that was out there. No, it is not like that. It's because at one point they somehow are part of the pioneers of the Dharma in the West. So of course, as the Dharma in the West is very new, very starting, we do have to understand that we have to give to that Western flourishing and fruits of the Dharma our own ability to translate it. You understand? It's just new. It's not even 100 years, okay? So we really have to understand that too. So when lots of Westerners say, oh, I lost my time, I'm not able to, I'm confused, lots of things like that. I spent 30 years doing my practice and nothing happened. No, it's not like that. Maybe it's not true, maybe something happens, but also maybe you didn't understand that the deception is part of it, because when everything falls apart, that's when it starts. So that's also something, because the renunciation was there since the beginning. It's just that you just didn't understand that it was there. Because sometimes we think, oh, this magical shaman blissful thing is so nice, and then the mind of devotion and renunciation is not truly there. You understand? Because if it's truly there, you don't feel that you were somebody, how you say that in English? Trapped you or fooled you, or you know, when somebody, it's funny, I don't know this word in English. You know, somebody like does something to you that is not honest, no? You don't feel like that if you are completely responsible for your path, and that you're completely sincere to yourself and you really work on the basics. You won't feel that. Yes, you will feel that whatever you live in is for the benefit of this, not only all beings, but this generation that to come. And the generation to come needs so much of this, so much. It's so important. I mean, if human beings go to the path of using their weapons and their power to make things awful, that's the only thing left. What I'm talking about will be the only thing left. Yeah? That's why it's so important. And then if you feel that you can be helpful because you're not resentful and you're not complaining and you're not like some kind of a nostalgia about whatever it is that happened when you were young and now you're not young. If you can just get older in a good way and be wiser and be like a little bit blissful, because at least you understood what was your priority. You're not lost into some kind of, what would I call that? Casino mental game. No. So if that's the case, you're part of a network, magic network, that is actually helpful, very important. It's not important because they will talk about you all in the future. It's because this, I told you, doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Nobody will remember anybody at one point, okay? I mean, even Napoleon, French know Napoleon, but they will end up forgetting Napoleon. Yeah? Look at all these, the island, today is Pâques, I don't know, Easter. So look at the island of Easter, no? They had only the heads, they didn't even know that if you dig, there's the whole body is there. They don't even remember that the whole body was there. How could they remember who built this and how they built it? We don't remember, okay? So this is not, it's not a problem, because deep inside we know everything. So we don't need to worry too much about these things. These are distractions, but they can be helpful, because you have to, at some point, be happy, even if you're not completely blissful in the nature of your mind. So you have to help yourself, you know? You have renunciation, maybe you stop drinking alcohol because you noticed you were getting sick, I don't know, maybe whatever, it doesn't matter, but, or like they say, you know, I quitted smoking because my master told me Dakinis are jealous. Yeah, I was 19 and I thought, wow, I don't even know what Dakinis are, but I got it, you know, I got it. I quit smoking immediately and I never became a smoker again. The very day I heard that thing, because it makes sense. They are jealous. The messengers of your own mind are jealous. They don't bear that you have anything else than these Dakinis in your heart. They don't want anything else, and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So this, of course, brings you some kind of a bliss. It's not because you're perfect. It's not because you're enlightened. It's just because you're not anymore doubting and I don't know, and maybe blah, 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 blah. You have some kind of enjoyable possibility. And then, of course, if you feel at one point you need a little bit of relaxation because you're too tense, you go have a walk, you go do something, or you listen to nice music. You have to treat yourself well. Don't call it I love myself. This is, excuse me, not very brilliant. It's not that you love yourself. It's just that you get to some kind of a basic evident thing is that love is how you feel. It's not loving anybody else, yourself or others. It's just the way you feel. When you feel love, you feel love. You don't have to love yourself. But of course, some people call it love yourself, no? It's just at one point you can treat yourself well, and at the same time, because you treat yourself well, you have discipline, because discipline is this healthy treatment towards yourself. It is not a military thing, it is not an aggressive thing, it is non-aggression, fully non-aggression. You feel that it makes you healthy, the discipline, and in the same time, you can play with the feminine and the masculine inside of giving yourself a little bit of niceness and giving yourself a little bit of tightness until you reach a point that it's not needed anymore. You understand? Yeah. Thank you very much. I made this video is 1 hour and 42 minutes. Have a very happy Easter.